Welcome to the presentation on the fuel filter replacement on a Safari 2000 Continental. This had a Caterpillar 3126B engine, and the filter system was the original, and it was called a Raycor Win 200-200. This system was noted for leaking air through the larger particle filter that it had. It had a screen mesh with a pump built into it and so forth. And when I got the motorhome, parts of this thing had been taken off. I don't even know how it worked. There was, connectors, as you can see here, lying loose in the bay. The other thing that was done was the primary filter is the white filter. That takes the debris out that's down to 30 microns. The second filter is a cat filter, and that should be down to 1 micron. However, when they serviced this machine, the people that did the work put in a 2-micron filter, and it's not a cat filter. You can also note that the way it's mounted, it's tilted to the side. And that's because they've just mounted this big heavy piece of equipment on a piece of plastic, and it tilts to the side. So getting that off, I think, would be a problem. So I'll do the presentation in 3 parts. The first part is describing the problem, what it is, what the solution was, and the first installation of the equipment that I did. Then I quickly realized, and I'll do this in the second part, is that what happened was the fuel tank on this thing had probably been sitting for a number of years. It may have been an estate sale or something, I'm not sure. But there were chunks floating around in that Raycor system you could see in the bowl. So then I was concerned that there'd be something else in the tank. And I was not going to take the tank out. I just don't have the ability to take it out to where it's parked right now. So what I wanted was another fuel filter system that preceded the main filters on this coach. So that was the second part. The third part was much more work. It wasn't very expensive, but what was wrong with this system was the fuel line going from the fuel pump on the engine to the primary filter was very badly cracked, and apparently they use substandard materials in these lines. It's a common problem that they crack. You could see on the line that somebody put a hose clamp around it and tightened it up, thinking, well, there's the problem. It's cracked because it's leaking at the input. Well, it wasn't. The entire hose is cracked on the thing. It had deteriorated. So I'll go through the whole thing about how to do that, and that was a lot of work. So for this part of it here, what you can see is I removed the Raycor system. As I said, I didn't even have all the parts to it. Like there's some sort of valve system and solenoid that was missing. The RV dealer had probably cannibalized that. But I got the Raycor, I think it's an R90 70 system here. Pardon me, R90 30. I think the 90 is the gallons per minute, 30 is the micron filtration on it. And there's actually 2 filters here. You can see the white filter, but that black round disc has got another screen inside of it. I think that goes down to 100 microns. So they just kind of take the chunks out of it. And then the box that you see up in the top left corner is the priming system. Now, when I did the research for this and looked around and not knowing a great deal about it, asked a lot of questions, but I finally came up with this. If you can get one with a hand pump, I wouldn't do that. For the difference in money and how much it's going to take you to do this, get the electric pump, because it was a real problem getting that fuel into the fuel filter here the first time. Not only that, it's, for this amount of work, anyway, it depends on your budget, I guess. This whole unit with the controller and the filter and all that came to $310, I think it was. I think that included the shipping on it. It might have been another $10 for shipping, I'm not certain. But it's a really well-built system. It's a nice piece of equipment. Now, the problem that I have here is that I don't want to take that chunk filter apart and take screws out and bolts and look at it and clean it and that sort of stuff. That's why I added another filter that precedes this one. The other thing you might want to do on here is to add in a ball valve. So you can see it here without the handle in here, and that was so that when you change the filter, you can shut that off. And then the fuel tank, won't get air back in, or not fuel tank, the fuel line to the tank won't drain out and you get air into it. I think it's a gravity feed, so I've been told. And it really was a pain in the neck trying to get that fuel in there the first time through. So this is the first installation of it. Then what I did, and I'll do it in the next part, I don't want to make this too long, is I put in a plate and mounted this whole other fuel system on the plate rather than trying to mess around with this engine bay business here that already had a bunch of holes cut all over the place, and it's kind of sloppy anyway in my estimation. So there it is. This is 1 out of 3 steps that it took to get this thing done properly, and I'll continue on with this in the next part of the presentation. Thank you.